Pushing hard.
Hostile marksman working. Tango down.
Moving on Bravo. Enemy identified.
Systems online.
Kill confirmed. I'm the intelligence tasked with overseeing Quer and the Broken Arrow program.
Did you really think you could contain me?
Show them no mercy! They ain't backing down, Zach.
Hello everyone, I'm John Raffis and welcome to Treyarch. Get your survival gear out and your bug out bags ready because tomorrow we will launch Operation Apocalypse Z. Zombies will be coming to every mode of Black Ops 4, and if zombies are coming to every mode, what better way to start talking about that than with our zombies team? So let's start with them.
This operation is an extremely exciting one for me personally because this one is all zombies.
Zombies has been a big part of what we do here at Treyarch, all the way back from World at War, BO1, BO2, BO3, and now even BO4.
Alpha Omega follows on from the two Ether maps that we've already seen in Black Ops 4. We got to play as the Ultimus crew in Classified, and we got to play as the Primus crew in Blood of the Dead. And those players who managed to finish those two maps will now realise that those two groups of characters have met. And this brings us up to Alpha Omega, where for the first time ever, players are going to be able to play as both the Primus versions and the Ultimus versions.
Seeing these two character crews come into one space is going to drive so much of the interaction and how they talk to one another, how they interact with their space.
But you talk. I did not say anything. I think you have me mixed up with someone else.
And this space is just full of Easter eggs and different kind of nods to different points of the Ether story because they do have an involvement there.
So now you're back in Nuketown, but it's not the Nuketown that you've played before. This map is 400% larger than the original map. That means there's more places to explore. There's more space above ground and below ground. There's additional houses that you got to see on the block before. Now you can go in and explore those houses and see what's in there, what's going on.
Nuketown's always been a fun map in the zombie storyline because while originally it was a very small map, it had elements in it that were hinting about something much bigger.
Nuketown as a location and that facility is such a big part of the zombie storyline, specifically the Ether storyline. So much has happened there, and so much that we haven't really been able to talk about or tell that story yet.
So at Nuketown's Broken Arrow facility, you'll find that there's been some secret weapons research going on. And these weapons are prototype ray guns that were developed at Broken Arrow.
We want players to feel the nostalgia of coming back to Nuketown, and we do that with those original spaces. But there's so much more to experience, and now that we've added new features and new mechanics, new enemy types.
A couple of them are based on the Nova 6 crawlers that you saw in Kino der Toten, and they are an evolution of these creatures. There is the Jolting Jack, and there's the Nova 6 bomber. The Jolting Jack is a creature that can teleport around, and it can fire electric bolts at you.
So I can remember playing zombies for the very first time I remember playing throughout and thinking, wow, this is really something special that we have here. And then to see it come full circle, now we have an operation in Black Ops 4 that's fully themed for zombies, and we're pulling all of this narrative and all of this lore that we've built up over multiple titles, multiple games, and multiple maps is super exciting. Kind of see that all come to fruition. I think players are really going to enjoy it and get excited by it.
You just heard from Craig, from Danny, from Mark, and joining us here in the studio today is our lead writer, Mr. Craig Houston.
Good morning, John.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm very excited, you know.
All right.
And you know what happens when I get excited?
What happens?
Good things happen in zombies. At least that's the plan.
Well, it seems like there's quite a bit going on with this operation.
Oh boy.
All things zombies, but within the zombies experience itself, there's quite a bit of story to catch us up on.
Yes.
So the experience is called
Alpha Omega, yeah.
But it blends a number of different experiences. Bring us up to speed on
Well, yeah. It's amazing that quite a lot's happened. Quite a lot's happened so far in Black Ops 4, particularly with regards to the Ether story. We last saw our gang in 2 maps at launch, Blood of the Dead and Classified. I think it's probably fair to give some spoilers at this point. I'll try and keep it light. At the end of Blood of the Dead, we saw the Primus crew finally breaking out of the cycle. But more than that, we saw that Nikolai Belinsky has now assumed the mantle of leadership. Richthofen gave him the Chronorium, and so from this point on, it's Nikolai, not Richthofen, that's calling the shots. Whereas over on Classified, we finally learned that the Ultimus versions of the characters didn't actually die on the moon. But more than that, at the very end of the map, they met the Primus versions. So we had Primus and Ultimus face to face. Where are we going to go from there? Well, guess what Idiot Craig decided? Let's put them all in one map and double the narrative workload. So that's what we did.
Well, let's talk to Idiot Craig about
yes.
This is so. Whenever you talk about sort of the narrative workload, put it in perspective. When you take on an experience like Blood of the Dead, like Classified, you're generally talking about how many lines of script?
From 2,500 is probably an average. We've gone up above that sometimes on maps like Revelations, and that's split between our principal characters and any kind of audio logs or guest appearances that we might have. For Alpha Omega, it's actually about 5,500 lines. So when you've got Primus and Ultimus running around together in the same map, any combination of different foursomes, you know, it's fun to see how they react to each other and how they reconcile their various differences. So, you know, beyond just all their dialogue, this is also one of the biggest maps we've ever done in terms of narrative Easter eggs. Let me just say, there's a lot of ancillary characters that you have met in the past, or if you've not met them, you've at least heard about them, and they are going to pop up in various ways throughout the map.
Well, whenever we talk about the map, which we're going to get into shortly, I mean, we're talking about an experience that, so from a narrative perspective, what, 5,500 lines?
Huge!
And the map itself is several 100% larger than...
Well, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean,
we'll get to it.
Do I want to start taking a look? Should we take a look?
Well, so, you know what? Probably. Let's jump into it.
Well, I think the first thing is that, you know, there's been a lot of rumours for a while that we were going to be going to Nuketown, but as always, things are never as simple as they appear. I mean,
they are not.
The sign that you'll see when you arrive identifies it as Camp Edward, which, you know, isn't quite what people thought Nuketown was necessarily, because what it turns out to be is that it is a front for something else, something much, much larger. This is actually a facility owned and operated by a group known as Broken Arrow. And once you start scratching the surface, you're going to realise that, you know, the Nuketown that you think you know really is, I was going to say literally the tip of the iceberg, but that's not true. It's figuratively the tip of the iceberg. I think the overall map is many times larger than the original. I can't remember the exact proportion, so I'll just say if it was like that, it's more like that.
We've got a very complicated relationship with icebergs this year.
Well, we don't make stories. That's the chaos story, so just keep that to the side.
General,
just keep that to the side.
Fair. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about the implications of having the Primus and Ultimus crews working together for the first time. How does that how does that begin shaping our experience here?
I think everyone knows that, you know, the main difference, the premise crew got to go on a very kind of emotional journey, searching for their souls and trying to save them and everything. Whereas Ultimus were a bit more goofy, stumbling around, having a bit of a laugh and not caring too much about the fate of the universe. Now under Nikolai's leadership, you know, obviously he's going to first of all find out that things weren't quite as simple as he thought, and, you know, Richtofen always had reasons for keeping secrets to himself. Nikolai's going to struggle a little bit with that, because once you've read that chronorium and you know what's coming, should you tell people, or do you try and just nudge them along? Or did the book say that you never told them? It's a real can of worms, but like I say, getting the different versions of the characters in the same map, you really, really see the contrast, you know. Richtofen, Ultimus Richtofen, insane. Utterly insane. I mean, Primus is only marginally more stable, but he's got kind of a mellower soul. Drunk Nikolai bumbling around looking for his vodka and going on about his ex-wives. As I say, it's kind of a reminder of how far the characters have come, and seeing what they do and don't recognise in each other is part of the fun.
Well, and you get to play as both.
Yes.
Well, tell us, was that a bit of a reunion of sorts? Was it a walk down memory lane from a narrative standpoint in terms of like how those personalities?
In a weird way, it's funny. I remember saying this when we did Classified, because we'd spent so long with Primus since Origins forward, really, and we tried to make them more realistic and give them a lot more emotional resonance, which I definitely think we achieved. You know, if you look at the Black Ops 3 season and all those death scenes, it was nice to see people crying as much as I actually cried when I wrote some of them, because
it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. I'm sorry.
It wasn't, but no, it's no laughing matter. You know, and that emotional journey that we'd taken them on, that was hugely important to me. So when we first decided to go back to Ultimus, a little part of me was a bit, they weren't as much fun, they didn't have as much depth. But once I started writing the jokes again and making myself laugh a lot, and hopefully other people, it's no good if it's just me that laughs, but, you know, so initially there was a bit of a resistance from me to bring back Ultimus, because I thought we'd progress the characters. Yeah. But doing Classified and then doing this where we get them together, it's, you know, it's the best of both worlds, it really is.
All right. So here we are, find ourselves back in Nuketown.
Yep.
Take us on a stroll, Greg.
Take us on a stroll. Well, look, there's a bus. It's not the bus. It's not going anywhere. That's not to say that Ted isn't necessarily going to appear somewhere down the line, but, you know, he's a robot. He's kind of difficult to get rid of. So like I was saying earlier, a lot of these areas are going to be familiar to people, obviously with a slight twist. There's going to be lots of, like every time we do a map, you know, it gets its own sheen on it. But this, like I said earlier, literally just represents a small fraction of actually what's there to be discovered. So, you know, we let people start off thinking they know what they're getting into, and then as they get deeper into the game, we obviously pull the rug out from under them, and suddenly they're in a state of panic, not knowing what's coming next. That's the way we do things.
Talk to me a little bit about sort of the lighting and the environment. To me, I mean, it's a beautiful looking map.
It is, and in fact, that's one of the things that the characters will talk quite a lot about. Is, in fact, I think it's Ultimus Nikolai. It says, "Who are billionaires who live in such luxury?" So they all have their impressions of what's going on in the map. But as you see now, we're starting to go into some of the lower levels, into the Broken Arrow facility, where, yeah, like all our good scientific research groups, they've been doing all sorts of things that they maybe shouldn't have been doing, or definitely had consequences that they may not have expected.
As we find ourselves down here in the bunker, talk to us a little bit about kind of the size of the experience, because I'm seeing things in Nuketown that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's of a magnitude of 4, I think is the right way to say it. Okay. 4 times bigger. What you used to see was a quarter of what's really there now. I'm just approaching statistics in different ways here, and none of them are very well, but yeah, it's at least 4 times the size of what Nuketown originally was.
What were some of your favorite elements to build back into this experience?
Well, I mean, the biggest one for me really was narrative, to kind of get into the narrative history of the building. I mean, I remember people asking me years and years ago, why was Marlton in the bunker? So, you know, that's something that we're going to get to revisit a little bit, shall we say. So I think, you know, even beyond what people actually knew of Nuketown, there was just a lot of very significant narrative threads that we knew that we had to come back to. I mean, we explored a little bit of Broken Arrow in the comic book series we did a couple of years ago with the Victus crew. We saw some of Russman's history to that. But this is much more of a deep dive, and you will get to see some of the things they are responsible for, including some twists on traditional enemies and traditional weapons. I think you saw some lightning hounds running around there who are a little bit of a variation on the usual hellhounds.
A note for viewers. This is a sort of pre-release build. There's some temp audio in there, so
yeah, it might be some of mine. So if you hear a Scottish person or a robot yelling out, that's just because this build is before we had implemented in the actual actors' dialogue. And that's another thing. God, they had fun doing both characters.
But that'll sound a little different tomorrow when it's out.
Yes.
Okay. So prior to just over the last couple of days, we've seen the Ray Gun Mark II.
Oh yeah, the Ray Gun Mark II
on our social channels. Talk to us about the Ray Gun Mark II.
Well, ray guns have got a long history in zombies, and you know, people always like to see the ray gun coming back. And this time the Ray Gun Mark II is coming back with a very special twist. I don't want to explain exactly how it functions, but let's just say you can modify it or put it together in a number of different ways that significantly alter its functionality. So it kind of becomes a customize your own ray gun the way you like kind of ray gun. Good old Ray.
So the inventiveness of the ray gun doesn't end there. If I'm not mistaken, there's a new perk that's being introduced.
Yes, Blood Wolf Bite. Yes. Sounds good, doesn't it?
I like it.
It sounds good already. Well, this one I particularly like because what it does is when you're doing a lot of damage and killing a lot of zombies and you have this perk activated, it will spawn a wolf known as Luna, who will then fight alongside you, chomping up the zombies. And come on, dogs eating zombies, that's good. We've usually had the hellhounds, or in this map, the lightning hounds coming at us. It's nice to have a dog on our side again. Yeah. We've not done that for a little while. And the last one, I think, was the ghost dog in Der Eisendrache. At least this one's alive.
All right, so kind of looking ahead, just peeking right over the top a little bit, take down the road with the Ether story and the next DLC. Where does it all take us?
It takes me back to my office where I continue writing it. No, it is. It's going to take us. We're so close to the end now. We're so close to wrapping up the story threads that we've been having for a long time. A lot of them are going to come together and coalesce within Alpha Omega, but there are other things within this map that are going to lead us directly into the next operation in our DLC 4, and there will be a lot of answers, there will be a lot of pain, there will be a lot of joy, and maybe a few tears as well, but yeah, I'm looking forward to wrapping it all up.
All right, so let's just let's recap everything here, make sure that we've covered it all. Huge narrative, larger
biggest
map,
ever.
Larger map, larger play space, playing as both Primus and Ultimus crew. Brand new experience. Ray Gun Mark II, new perk. What are we leaving out?
The secret things that we're not going to talk about.
The secret things.
Because there's always, you know, back to your iceberg metaphor again. Yeah. What we've said today, it's a bigger bit of iceberg, but it's still not the entirety of the iceberg. There's, as I say, there's a bunch of ancillary and or guest characters, both allies and enemies, that are going to pop up as you progressed in the main quest. So lots to see.
Craig, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Welcome.
In honor of tomorrow's release of Alpha Omega, we brought along a little bit of gameplay. So here's a sneak peek at what is to come tomorrow.
What is the next phase of our journey? I wish I could forewarn you of what is to come and what is at stake. Show them no mercy! There is more to this facility than meets the eye.
Primary systems offline.
Get down! Do you really think you could contain me?
Welcome back. Zombies continues to invade every other mode of the game, including multiplayer. And here to tell us what is in store for all things multiplayer in Operation 5, we have Tony Flame, Miles Leslie. Gentlemen, welcome to the stream.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome to be here, John. Thanks for having us.
All right, let's jump right into it. Let's get into kind of an overview for launch week. Let's start with news around Reaper. Tony, what did you bring for us?
Reaper is coming into the multiplayer game. We're super excited for that. He is bringing his scythe, his specialist weapon. It's a big machine gun, as you might expect. It's a little different than you've seen it before. It's Black Ops 4 is a prequel. It's in a different time period than Black Ops 3. So he doesn't have his minigun arm yet. What he does have is a giant double-barreled 50 cal machine gun. So he pulls that bad boy out. And it's pretty straightforward. You shoot it, it fires big bullets that do a lot of damage.
Please, hold on. For some of our newer players, can you please explain how that works?
Yeah, sorry, I'll slow down.
It's about yay big, and it does about yay damage.
It's such a giant gun that only Reaper could carry it, so that's why we had to wait until Reaper came out to release this weapon.
No mere mortal could hold it except Reaper.
Yeah,
correct.
Makes sense.
He's not immortal either.
That's right.
Yeah. So he's got two barrels. When you fire it from the hip, it's gonna be firing from both barrels, doing a lot of damage, and it'll be doing a pretty slow fire rate. But once you aim up, you're gonna zoom in a little bit, and that's when you really rev it up, and it's gonna be firing those things at an even faster fire rate, devastating against players, score streaks, equipment, pretty much anything. You're gonna be a little bit slow and vulnerable while you're using it. Slow and vulnerable while you're using it, though. So, and to accommodate that, Reaper has got the Shroud, which is his equipment, his special issue equipment. So the way the Shroud works, it basically creates an area on the minimap that completely blacks it out for enemies. So you can't be seen by enemy fog of war, you can't be seen by enemy UAVs, anything like that. When you fire your weapon, you don't show up. The whole area within this Shroud, when it's deployed, is blocked out to enemies. So it's a great spot to get your whole team up. You can just lay down fire with your scythe, and no one will know necessarily where you are based on the mini-map. They'll have to find you the old-fashioned way, finding your tracers and your gunfire and all of that. So it synergizes really well with his scythe, and it creates some new gameplay opportunities where if you're trying to either hold down an area where your team's at and you don't want to be seen in there, you can do that, or you can, if you're attacking an objective, you can shoot the Shroud. It fires kind of like the sensor dart, so you can shoot it at a trajectory at a distance, and that way you're laying cover for your team to advance.
Sure. Interesting way to play with the minimap. Interesting. All right, so, but there's also some news on the party game front. What are we bringing with this operation?
So starting tomorrow, Sticks and Stones, the new party game mode for this operation, is going to be the featured playlist. It's a party game mode, so you can bring your friends in. It's a free-for-all. We had a ton of fun playing just the other day.
Yeah.
So the way this game mode works, it's a free-for-all. You're fighting against everybody in there, and you load out with a So that's a skill shot. It's a projectile. Then when you switch to your secondary weapon, you got a ballistic knife. So instant kill melees or the ballistic knife, you hit him with that, also a skill shot weapon. And then as your equipment, everyone's got a hatchet. It's another skill shot weapon. So it's a lot of fun. You're running around trying to hit each other with these, trying to lead players. If there's kind of a little rock, paper, scissors going on there where you got a melee on the ballistic knife. But on the crossbow, you've got explosives. But they don't die immediately. And then the hatchet has got kind of the real factor here. So the way that the scoring works in this, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So if you kill an enemy with the crossbow or the ballistic knife, it's going to be 100 points towards your score. The person with the most score at the end of the game wins. Hatchet only gets you 50 points, but the person that you're taking out with the hatchet, their score is completely zeroed out.
Yep.
So it's that's kind of what makes the
It's so brutal.
It's what makes the game so fun though, because you could go on such a crazy run. You're like, oh, I want to be in first place. You get to first place, and then you
it's
realize
what makes
the game so fun though, because you could go on such a
like, great, I'm first. Oh no, right?
Absolutely, good times.
So to help drive the action on that, we've got a UAV ping that happens about every minute, just to make sure that the first place
Craig, thank you
player
very
isn't
much for
camping
joining
too much.
us. Really,
And not only is there a UAV ping, but
They
if you
appreciate-
are in first place, you're going to be shown with a gold dot instead of a red dot. So everyone's going to know where you are. They're going to be coming after you. So